Nathaniel Carrington stood on the grand stage, bathed in warm lights and applause. He was wearing a dark suit that fit perfectly, his hair neatly styled, and his expression steady. This was the night he would accept an important award for his work in technology. His company had changed how people talked to each other, and everyone wanted to hear his speech. But before he could begin, his assistant, Marcus, hurried onto the stage, his face pale and tense. Marcus leaned in close and whispered something in Nathaniel's ear. In that instant, the applause died down. Nathaniel's eyes widened. He nodded once, then stepped back from the microphone. Silence settled over the room as hundreds of people watched, confused. Nathaniel cleared his throat. "I'm sorry," he said softly, his voice steady but quiet. "I have to step away." He left the stage, his heart racing. In the hallway behind the curtains, Marcus held out a small envelope. Without a word, he showed Nathaniel the words printed on the front: "Official death certificates, Lest Carrington." Nathaniel's breath caught in his throat. His wife, Celeste, was declared dead 6 months ago after a private yacht accident. Back then, he had been told there was nothing more to do, that he should accept her loss and move on. He had retreated from public life, shutting himself in his home, surrounded by memories and unanswered questions. Now, as he opened the envelope, his pulse pounded. He stared at the paper, his hand trembling. He felt as though time had stopped. 6 months of grief, sorrow, and quiet pain suddenly flooded back. The thought that it might all be a mistake filled him with both hope and dread. Marcus placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Sir, someone is here to see you," he said. Nathaniel nodded, only slowly returning to himself. He followed Marcus through the maze of backstage corridors, past security guards who stepped aside respectfully. At the end of the hall, the double doors opened onto a small waiting room. There, standing in the center of the room, was a young, black woman. She wore a simple dress and carried herself with calm confidence. Her name tag read Aaliyah Thompson. Nathaniel recognized her from the news. Aaliyah was a social worker who helped people in crisis. She had a reputation for speaking truth to power. Here and now, she stood with a quiet determination that made Nathaniel pause. Before he could speak, she raised her hand and offered him a small, clear plastic box. Inside sat a delicate silver necklace set with a single opal. Nathaniel felt his chest tighten. He knew that necklace. It had been a gift from him to Celeste on their anniversary. He had watched her eyes light up when she unwrapped it. He set a foot forward but stopped. The room felt too small, the air too heavy. Aaliyah spoke in a steady voice. "Your wife is still alive," she said. Her words were simple, but they hit Nathaniel like a wave. He shook his head, unbelieving. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm not sure what you mean." He looked at Marcus, who glanced at Aaliyah and back at Nathaniel. Aaliyah opened her hand to let him see the necklace more clearly. The opal shimmered with little flashes of color. Nathaniel caught his breath. He moved closer, as if to touch the necklace, but stopped himself. "Where did you get this?" asked, his voice unsteady. Leah's lips curved in a small, calm smile. "I found her in my center," she said. "She came to me months ago. She would not say her name. She only carried this necklace and said she was afraid to trust anyone." She paused, scanning Nathaniel's face. "I've looked into her story. I believe she is Celeste Carrington." Her words hung in the air. Nathaniel's mind raced. For months, he had assumed Celeste was gone forever. He had held a private memorial, sent flowers to charities in her name, and kept her closet in their home exactly as she left it. He had replayed memories of her laughter, her kindness, her fierce belief in helping others. He had never stopped loving her. Now the possibility that she might still be alive both thrilled and terrified him. He took a deep breath and steadied himself. "Why now?" he asked. "Why come to me after all this time?" Alia's eyes met his. "'Cause she told me your name," she said softly. "She said she needed you to find her." Nathaniel closed his eyes for a moment. He let the rush of emotion wash over him. Fear, hope, confusion, longing. Then he opened his eyes and looked at Aaliyah with resolve. "I need to know more," he said. "Everything you have." Leah nodded. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small notebook. "I took some notes," she explained. "And I found hospital records under a different name. Here are copies." She handed him the papers. It showed a woman admitted after an accident, treated for injuries matching a yacht crash. The name was different, but the description, the medical details, everything pointed to Celeste. Nathaniel flipped through the pages, his heart pounding. The date on the record was only 3 months ago. He stared at Aaliyah. His voice trembled. How did she get these injuries and not tell me? Aaliyah looked down. She was afraid. She said someone was after her money, after her work. She thought if you looked for her, they would find you both. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. He thought of the people who had criticized Celeste's charity projects, the board members who had questioned her use of funds. He thought of the threats she had mentioned in passing during happier times. He closed the notebook and met Alia's gaze. I need to believe this, he said. But I also need proof. Aaliyah nodded again, her expression gentle but firm. I have one more thing. She reached into her pocket and pulled out an old photograph. It showed a woman with Celeste's smile, bright and warm, standing beside a little boy she was comforting. In the corner of the photo was the logo of a small outreach center where Alia worked. This was taken last month, Alia said. She called me that day. Then she disappeared again. Nathaniel studied the photo. Yes, that was Celeste's face. He felt tears prick at his eyes. He swallowed hard. Thank you, he said. I know this isn't easy for you. Alia gave a small nod. I believe in helping people, she said quietly. I couldn't stay silent. Nathaniel reached out and gently took the photograph. He felt a surge of gratitude and hope. He turned to Marcus, who had been watching quietly. Arrange a private meeting, Nathaniel said. I want to sit down with Ms. Thompson and go over everything in detail. And I want my investigation. Team ready? Marcus bowed his head. Right away, sir. Nathaniel looked back at Aaliyah. Please come with me, he said. I have a safe place where we can talk. Aaliyah nodded and followed him down the hallway. As they walked, Nathaniel's mind whirled with questions. Had Celeste really survived? Who had hidden her away? And most important, what had happened? To make her believe she could not come home? He felt a fire of determination ignite inside him. He would do whatever it took to find the truth and bring her back. That evening, as the city lights glittered outside his windows, Nathaniel sat in his private office with Aaliyah. Papers were spread out on the polished table, medical records, photographs, and a list of people connected to Celeste's charity work. Each document was a clue. Each name was a step toward uncovering a mystery that had haunted him for half a year. Aaliyah spoke calmly, her voice steady. I will help you, she said. We need to be careful. Whoever did this may be watching. Nathaniel nodded. He thought of his private security, his resources, and the power of his influence. But he also realized that some things could not be solved by money alone. He needed trust, patience, and courage. That night, Nathaniel could not sleep. He thought of Celeste's laugh, the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about helping others, and the warmth of her hand in his. He resolutely decided that he would not rest until he had answers. Leah's words echoed in his mind. Your wife is still alive. Those words gave him hope, and hope he knew was the beginning of everything. ChatGPT said. Nathaniel woke early the next morning. Light crept through the tall windows of his study. He sat at the long mahogany desk, a steaming cup of coffee in front of him. On the desk lay folders full of notes and photographs that Aaliyah had brought. His heart thumped with urgency. He could not lose time. He reached for his secure phone and called Elena Martinez, his most trusted private investigator. Elena's voice was calm but firm when she answered. Sir, everything is ready, she said. I have the initial hospital leads, and I'm meeting my contact at the records office now. Nathaniel felt relief. Good, he said. Let's begin. Elena arrived at his estate an hour later. She walked in carrying a slim laptop and a small notebook. She looked professional in a dark blazer and neat ponytail. Nathaniel greeted her with a nod. Elena, thank you for coming on short notice. She nodded in return. I understand the situation is delicate. I'll work carefully. He motioned her to sit. Aaliyah was already there, going over notes with Marcus, the assistant. Marcus handed Aaliyah a fresh notebook and took notes as Leah. She spoke. Nathaniel joined them. The four of them formed a small circle around the desk, each person focused and calm. Alina began. I've tracked the hospital records Aaliyah gave us. The woman was admitted under the name Sarah Lowe. She was treated for multiple fractures. In shock, dated 3 months ago. The description matches the yacht accident. She showed the entry on her laptop. Nathaniel leaned forward. Where was the hospital? He asked. Alina tapped the screen. St. Mercy Medical Center, 30 miles from here. Nathaniel frowned. He knew that hospital was far from downtown and not linked to his wife's usual doctors. Aaliyah spoke next. She told me she could not use her real name, she feared. That if she revealed who she was, someone powerful would find her. She has a stalker-like fear of the wealthy. She shivered slightly at the memory. She stayed in a private room, barely speaking, until she was discharged to my center. Marcus scribbled in the notebook, discharged to Alia's center. Alina scrolled. Here we have hospital visitor logs. No one visited her except a person named Em Granger. That name does not match any of Celeste's known friends. Nathaniel's brow tightened. Who is M. Granger? Alina shook her head. Unknown. We need to find that person. Nathaniel tapped his pen and find where she went after discharge. Aaliyah reached into her purse and pulled out a scrap of paper. It was an address in a suburban neighborhood, she explained. She gave me this when she left the hospital. She said someone outside would pick her up. Alina took out her phone and snapped a picture. I'll have my team check surveillance footage around that address. If we can see the car or the person who picked her up, maybe we can track them. Nathaniel felt a surge of hope. Good work, he said. Alina, what about the yacht accident records? Alina tapped again. I requested the original accident report from the Coast Guard. He sent a summary stating Celeste Carrington was on board and died. I asked for the full log, including any witness statements. She paused. But they said the detailed log was classified or missing. Nathaniel rubbed his chin. Sounds like a cover-up. Alina nodded. It could be. The accident involved a small group of people, the yacht crew and 2 guests. I have their names. We can interview them. Nathaniel leaned back. Quietly. I don't want the press sniffing around. Alina put away her laptop. Understood. Marcus cleared his throat. Sir, shall I handle the legal side? We might need subpoenas for records. Nathaniel looked at Marcus. Yes. Prepare everything. But keep it discreet. I don't want our investigation to alert whoever hid her away. Marcus nodded and tapped at his own tablet. Aaliyah folded, her hands in her lap. There's one more thing, she said. Nathaniel turned to her. Yes. She kept a journal when she first came to me, Aaliyah explained. She wrote down memories and fears. It might show why she ran. Opened her purse again, searching for another folder. Nathaniel watched her hands. She pulled out worn pages, yellowed at the edges. These are copies, she said, handing them to Alina. I made digital scans. Alina accepted the pages respectfully. Thank you. I'll analyze them for names. Or clues. Aaliyah's eyes met Nathaniel's. I want you to know I did not force this. She asked me to help. I promised to find her family. Nathaniel nodded. I appreciate that. He felt a debt of gratitude toward Aaliyah. She risked her own safety to bring him hope. They spent the morning reviewing the journal. It was written in Celeste's own hand, neat but shaky in places. She described deep anxiety, fear that someone was watching her every move. She wrote of secret meetings with board members who pressured her to change financial reports. She wrote of threats anonymous letters slipped under her door. She feared for her life, so she faked her death and ran. Nathaniel's heart ached as he read her words. He could hear her voice, strong, caring, determined, and frightened. He closed his eyes to steady his emotions. We will find her, he said softly, and we will bring her home safely. Outside the windows, the sun climbed higher. Alina closed her laptop. I'll have surveillance results by tonight, she said. Marcus tapped at his tablet. File subpoenas. For the Coast Guard logs and crew statements, Aaliyah stood. I'll check with my center staff for any other clues about her first days there. Sometimes memory trickles out in small details. Nathaniel rose as well. Thank you, all of you. Let's meet again tonight. They dispersed to their tasks. each person moving with purpose. Nathaniel stayed behind to gather more information. But his mind wandered to Celeste's smile. She had always believed in honesty and justice. Now those same ideals guided him. He would fight for her no matter what. Late afternoon, Alina reported back. They reconvened in his study. She laid out a map of the suburban address Aaliyah gave. The surveillance camera at the corner of 5th and Elm caught a black sedan on the day of her release, she said. License plate partially visible, ends with 9XJ. She zoomed in on a grainy image of the car's rear. Nathaniel's eyes narrowed. Owns that plate. Lena tapped her phone. I sent a request to the DMV under a subpoena. We should have an answer in a few hours, Leah added. I found a note in her journal about a safe house run by someone named Miriam. She trusted Miriam. Nathaniel stared at Alina. Check if anyone named Miriam is linked to that address. Lena nodded. I will. Marcus spoke next. The subpoenas for the crew statements and Coast Guard logs were accepted. We should receive copies by tomorrow evening. Nathaniel felt the investigation gain momentum. Each piece fit like a puzzle. Each clue led them closer to the truth. But he also felt tension. Whoever hid Celeste away watched carefully. If they sensed progress, they might move her again. He imagined her alone somewhere, waiting for rescue. His chest tightened. He caught Alia's eye. Thank you for everything, he said. I know it was hard to come forward. Alia shook her head. I had to do it. She deserved a chance. To live freely? Nathaniel nodded. You gave me that chance. He paused. Is there anything else you remember? Anything that stood out, Alia thought? She once mentioned a beach she loved as a child, a small cove near our town.
Ow.
That was the day I took her to clear her mind. She felt safe there, Nathaniel. Studied the map. That cove was quiet and remote. Alia had said she went there wanting to feel calm. Lena, he said, can you check if anyone saw her at that cove around her discharge date? Alina nodded. I'll ask local beach workers and check drone footage if available, Marcus added. I'll check cell tower pings for her phone around that area. Nathaniel smiled tightly. Good, let's cover every angle. As the sun began to set, they wrapped up for the evening. Nathaniel walked Alia to the front door. He stopped and looked at her. You've done more than I can say, he said. I owe you everything. Alia shook her head. You're giving her hope. She turned to go. Nathaniel hesitated, then said, Please be careful. She gave a small smile. I will. Inside, Nathaniel stared out at the fading sky. The investigation was underway. He had a team working every lead, felt the weight of his resources, his influence, and his promise to Celeste. He would not rest until he found her. And when he did, he would make sure she was safe, heard, and free to come home. In the quiet of his grand estate, Nathaniel thought of the days to come. He imagined tracking down M. Granger, confronting the board members, piecing together the cover-up. He imagined meeting Celeste again and holding her. Close. The journey was just beginning, but for the first time in 6 months, hope burned bright in his heart. ChatGPT said. Alina worked late into the night, her eyes fixed on the glow of her laptop screen as she dug deeper into the yacht accident files. She found a strange detail. The official report listed only one name under crew witness, even though 3 crew members had been on duty that night. The report had a note that read additional statements withheld, but no explanation for why. She printed the page and slipped it onto Nathaniel's desk before heading home. Nathaniel read the words again and again, feeling a knot of anger form in his chest. Something was very wrong. The next morning, Nathaniel and Alia met in the quiet library of his estate. Alia held a fresh copy of Celeste's journal, its pages full of trembling handwriting. Nathaniel traced his finger over a section where Celeste had written about a sealed envelope she received from the board. She had said it contained threats but refused to open it. Alia looked up, her eyes steady. I have the envelope. She said she gave it to me when she fled. She handed Nathaniel a small, aged manila envelope. He opened it carefully, revealing a single sheet of paper with typed words. Cease all inquiries or suffer the consequences.
Ow.
There was no signature. Marcus joined them, carrying a thick file from the law firm. The offshore account we found in our records, he said, is linked to an anonymous trust managed by a firm in the Cayman Islands. The trust was set up in Celeste's name weeks before the accident. Nathaniel folded the threat letter and stared at it, then at the file. So someone used her identity to hide money, he said. When she refused to cooperate, they tried to scare her into silence. His voice shook with controlled fury. Elena's team had also discovered that Coast Guard logs from the night of the accident were incomplete. The GPS tracker on the yacht was disabled for 30 minutes around the time Celeste disappeared. No one could explain why. Elena contacted a former technician who had worked on the yacht's navigation system. The technician agreed to meet her at a secure location. He arrived with nervous eyes and hands that shook as he handed Elena a USB drive. "I saved a backup," he said in a hushed voice. I knew something was off. Nathaniel watched the drive being scanned. On it was raw GPS data showing the yacht stopped near a small, uncharted island for over an hour. Nathaniel and Aaliyah studied the map of the uncharted island. It was small and rocky, with a thin strip of sand. No one would think to look there. Aaliyah swallowed. "She may have been taken there," she whispered. Nathaniel nodded. "We need to see that data." In detail, Elena projected the coordinates onto a screen. The island sat 90 miles from the accident site, far from shipping lanes. It was isolated. "I know someone who can charter a discreet flight," Elena said. "We can fly over the island and see if there are any signs of structures, camps." "Anything," Nathaniel agreed. That afternoon, Nathaniel assembled the small team in his private conference room. He, Elena, Marcus, and Aaliyah sat around a polished table. He laid out the day's tasks. Marcus would secure legal permission for aerial surveillance. Elena would organize the flight and arrange satellite imagery. Aaliyah would review every page of Celeste's journal for hidden clues. Nathaniel watched each person absorb their assignment. He felt grateful and determined. "We move quickly," he said. "Time is against us." Early the next morning, a small charter plane lifted off in darkness. Nathaniel and Elena sat at the front, Elena clutching Celeste's journal in her lap. The plane climbed through low clouds until the uncharted island appeared on the horizon. From high above, they saw rocky cliffs and a tiny beach. No buildings were visible, but they spotted a series of footprints leading from the shore to a rocky ledge. Elena marked the spots on her map. "There's something there," she said. "Maybe a cave or a makeshift shelter." Nathaniel's heart pounded. He felt closer than ever to the truth. Back at the estate, Marcuse had news. The Cayman Islands Trust was tied to a shell company registered under the name of one of Celeste's former board members, Lawrence Finch. Lawrence had resigned suddenly after the accident and disappeared from public view. Nathaniel frowned at the file. He remembered that Finch had argued vehemently with Celeste over budget cuts for her charity projects. He had accused her of mismanagement, but no one had expected threats. It seemed Finch had a far darker motive. Aaliyah spent hours poring over the journal, her finger tracing lines where Celeste described secret meetings in Lawrence's office. She found a passage that mentioned a hidden drawer in Lawrence's desk, one she had never seen in later visits. The drawer had held documents that Celeste said were dangerous. Aaliyah looked up. She wrote that after the meeting she took copies, just in case. She said she put them in a small red folder and hid it in her home. Nathaniel's eyes lit up. He stood. "We need to find that folder." Lena assembled security footage from Celeste's home before the accident. They watched images of Celeste carrying a small red folder into the house the day before the storm hit. The footage showed her placing something in her study, then locking the door. Nathaniel accessed the estate's security override and opened the file cabinet in Celeste's study. There, taped to the underside of a drawer, was a faded red folder. Inside were photocopies of emails between Lawrence Finch and offshore accountants, discussing how to siphon charity funds into personal accounts. Nathaniel felt a mix of relief and rage, held up the folder for Aaliyah and Elena to see. "This is the proof we need," he said. He copied the documents and sent them to a secure server. Aaliyah gently closed her eyes, remembering Celeste's bravery. She knew the truth, and she paid the price. Nathaniel nodded. "We will make sure her voice is heard." He turned to Marcus issue a formal complaint against Finch and anyone involved, and prepare to expose the shell company. Marcus tapped commands into his tablet. That evening, as he prepared to address the press, Nathaniel thought of Celeste's courage. He imagined her standing beside him, fearless and strong. He felt determined to bring justice not only for her, but for every person who trusted her charity. The next morning, he held a private press briefing. He calmly laid out the facts: the forged accident report, the disabled GPS, the threat letter, the offshore accounts, and the hidden folder. The room buzzed with astonishment. Reporters scribbled notes as Nathaniel announced that a full investigation would follow and that Lawrence Finch was under suspicion for fraud and conspiracy. In the days that followed, Finch was questioned by authorities. He denied wrongdoing at first, but when confronted with the evidence from the red folder, his composure broke. He confessed to embezzlement and to orchestrating the accident cover-up, admitting he never expected Celeste to survive. Nathaniel read the confession transcript late one night. He placed a calm hand on his desk, then closed his eyes. He felt the weight of the long fight slip away. The truth was out. But even as part of the conspiracy fell apart, Nathaniel knew one piece of the puzzle remained: finding where Finch had held Celeste after the accident. He turned to Alia and Elena. "Let's find where she was kept. Then we can bring her home." They nodded, ready for the next step. The investigation had exposed the conspiracy, but the rescue was still to come. Nathaniel was determined that it would succeed. Nathaniel reviewed the files one last time before leaving the estate. The map showed the location of the safe house, an old farmhouse on a quiet back road, far from any main highway. He felt a tight knot in his stomach. He knew Celeste might be scared and exhausted. He wanted to bring her home safely and gently, not like a prisoner. He gathered Elena, Marcus, and Alia in the conference room. Each of them held a clear role. Elena would lead security, Marcus would handle legal cover, and Alia would guide them to Celeste with care. They loaded into 2 black SUVs just before dawn. The sky was a pale gray, and the fields they passed were still damp with morning dew. Nathaniel sat in the front seat of the lead vehicle, staring at his reflection in the window for a moment. He saw a man, driven by love and fear, determined to end Celeste's long ordeal. He took a deep breath and stepped out when they reached a gravel drive. The farmhouse stood alone against a backdrop of tall trees. It looked empty, but they could not be sure. Elena checked her earpiece and whispered, "Team, on my mark." She slipped silently to the side of the house, followed by 2 security agents. Nathaniel, Alia, and Marcus waited near the front door. Alia folded Celeste's journal tightly in her hands. "Be gentle," she said softly to Nathaniel. He nodded, feeling every ounce of care he had for his wife. Elena signaled through her mic, and they approached the door. It was locked, but not strongly. Elena used a key card she had obtained from the technician who worked on the house locks. The door clicked open. They stepped inside as a quiet hush settled. Marcus stayed by the door in case they needed an exit. Elena swept through the small living room toward a hallway. Nathaniel and Alia followed, moving as quietly as possible. In a back bedroom, they found Celeste sitting on a narrow bed. She looked smaller than in his memories, her dress simple and worn. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes widened when she saw Nathaniel. For a moment, they both froze. Time seemed to hold its breath. Then Nathaniel crossed the room slowly, kneeling. Beside her, his voice was gentle. "Celeste, it's me." He reached out and touched her hand. She looked at him, tears brimming, but not yet falling. Nathaniel took a deep breath. "I'm here to bring you home," he said. Celeste's eyes filled with tears that spilled down her cheeks. She tried to stand, but wobbled. Elena and Elena moved forward to support her. Alia spoke softly. "You're safe now. You're with people who love you." Celeste closed her eyes as if to steady herself, then leaned into Nathaniel's shoulder, lifted her gently into his arms, careful not to hurt her. Behind them, Elena searched the room for anything that might help explain Celeste's time here. On a small table, she found a stack of notes and photographs showing Celeste's face broadcast on missing person posters. Someone had been keeping track of public searches, but always too late. She slipped these into an evidence bag. In the corner of the room, Marcus spotted a locked metal box. He pried it open and found passports under false names. Someone had planned for Celeste to remain hidden for a long time. Outside, the morning light grew brighter. Nathaniel carried Celeste to the SUV, speaking low words of comfort. She seemed stunned but relieved. Once inside, Nathaniel wrapped a soft blanket around her shoulders. He stroked her hair as Alina and Aaliyah climbed in behind them. Akas followed last, closing the door quietly. On the drive back, Celeste rested her head on Nathaniel's shoulder. She spoke in a small voice, almost a whisper. "I was so scared," she said. Nathaniel kissed her temple. "You're safe now," he answered. Aaliyah reached forward and took Celeste's hand. "You are not alone," she said. Marcus drove steadily, avoiding main roads to keep them out of view. Nathaniel felt a fierce protectiveness for Celeste and deep gratitude for Alia's care. When they reached the estate, Nathaniel moved Celeste to the private wing of their home. He guided her to a quiet sitting room filled with soft cushions and warm light. Alina stayed nearby to oversee security, and Marcus brought tea for everyone. Celeste sat on the couch, wrapped in a shawl. Her eyes were red but bright. She looked at Nathaniel and then at Alia. "Thank you," she whispered. Nathaniel knelt before her. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I should have found you sooner. We'll never let anything happen like this again." Celeste pressed her hand to his cheek. "You saved me," she replied. "I knew you would." She looked at Aaliyah and smiled with gratitude. Aaliyah's eyes shone with relief. "You were brave," she said to Celeste. "And you are free now." Marcus brought the evidence they had collected: the threat letter, offshore documents, photos, passports. Alice studied them quietly. She nodded when she saw the folder with her charity's records. "This was the proof," she said. "I hid it because I trusted you to expose the truth." Nathaniel squeezed her hand. "We have done that," he said. "The board members are facing justice." Over the next hour, Celeste began to tell her story in more detail. She described the day of the accident, the fear she felt as the yacht's GPS went dark, and how she was taken to the island. She spoke of loneliness, hunger, and the terror of not knowing if Nathaniel would come for her. Nathaniel listened with tears in his eyes, holding her close. Aaliyah sat beside them, taking notes on what Celeste might need for a safe return to public life. By evening, Celeste felt strong enough to stand. Nathaniel guided her to a window. Overlooking their garden, the sky was pink, and the air smelled of flowers. Celeste took a deep breath. "I want to go home," she said. Nathaniel smiled through tears. "You are home," he said. Aaliyah rose to leave, but Celeste caught her hand. "Please stay," she said softly. Aaliyah hesitated, then sat again. Nathaniel watched the three of them there, his wife, the woman who had rescued her in spirit, and the friend who had made his own rescue possible. He felt a deep sense of completion. The conspiracy had been exposed, his wife had been found, and their lives could begin again. That night, Nathaniel and Celeste sat together in their bedroom, the journal and evidence locked away. They spoke of the future with hope, rebuilding the charity with honest board members, ensuring survivors like Celeste were always supported, and never allowing fear to silence the truth. Nathaniel held Celeste's hand and promised he would never let her face danger alone again. As they lay down, Celeste whispered, "I'm alive because of you and Aaliyah." Nathaniel kissed her forehead. "Every day I will prove how much you matter," he said. In the quiet darkness, they found peace at last. The investigation had led them through fear and uncertainty, but now they were together, safe and free, ready to heal and to share their story of hope and love. The morning sun streamed through the windows as Celeste and Nathaniel sat at the long kitchen table, cups of tea warming their hands. Celeste looked out at the garden where flowers swayed in a gentle breeze. For the first time in months, she felt safe enough to smile without fear. Nathaniel poured her another cup of tea. "I've arranged for your favorite breakfast," he said softly. "Blueberry pancakes and fresh berries." Celeste's eyes lit up. "That sounds perfect," she said, her voice hopeful. They ate slowly, savoring each bite and the simple pleasure of sharing a meal together. Celeste told Nathaniel about her first night back, how the bed felt too big without him beside her, how the sound of doors closing still made her jump. Nathaniel reached across the table and took her hand. "We will make this house a home again," he said. Celeste nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. After breakfast, Aaliyah arrived at the estate, carrying a small box of files. She smiled when she saw Celeste sitting by the window. "Good morning," she said. Celeste stood and wrapped Aaliyah in a gentle hug. "Thank you," Celeste whispered. Aaliyah stepped back and handed over the files. "These are the final reports from the authorities," she explained. "They confirm everything: the fraud, the threats, and the cover-up. Lawrence Finch and his associates have been charged." Nathaniel felt relief wash over him. Justice was on its way. In the afternoon, Nathaniel and Celeste met with their legal team and the charity's new board members. They sat around a round table in a bright conference room. Celeste spoke calmly about her vision for the charity: transparency, accountability, and a safe space for survivors of any injustice. The new board members listened respectfully, nodding and taking notes. Nathaniel watched his wife with pride. Her strength had carried them through the darkest days, and now her voice guided the future. Later, they held a small press gathering in the estate's garden. Journalists and photographers stood at a respectful distance as Nathaniel and Celeste stepped onto a simple, raised platform. Celeste wore a light dress that caught the breeze, and Nathaniel wore a dark suit without a tie. They held hands. Nathaniel spoke first. "My wife, Celeste Carrington, was declared dead 6 months ago. Today she stands here with me, alive and, well, thanks to the courage of a social worker, Aaliyah Thompson, and the determination of all who believed in truth." He paused as cameras clicked. Celeste took the microphone. Her voice was steady and clear. "I want to thank the investigators, my family, and everyone who supported me. I also want to share my story so that no one else feels forced into hiding or silenced by fear. We are launching a new initiative, Voices Unheard, which will protect whistleblowers and those who face threats, ensuring they have legal and emotional support. We will work with governments and communities to create safe pathways for people to come forward." Questions from reporters followed, and Celeste answered each one with honesty and compassion. One reporter asked how she found the strength to survive. Celeste paused, then said, "Hope. The hope that someone out there loved me and would never stop searching." The crowd grew quiet, moved by her words. Nathaniel squeezed her hand proudly. After the press event, guests mingled in the garden under white tents. Light music played, and servers offered refreshments. Celeste and Nathaniel walked among their friends and supporters, greeting each person. Aaliyah stayed close, her face bright with happiness. At one point, Celeste pulled Nathaniel aside. "Thank you for never giving up," she said softly.
Nathaniel
Lifted her hand to his lips. "You gave me the reason to fight," he answered. As evening approached, Nathaniel guided Celeste to a small gazebo lit by lanterns. A table held a simple wedding cake. Nearby, friends and family gathered quietly. Celeste's eyes widened in surprise. Nathaniel smiled and took her other hand. "I promised I would never let anything keep us apart again," he said. "Will you marry me again, here, now, where our story truly began?" Tears glistened in Celeste's eyes as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. They stood before their loved ones and exchanged simple vows, speaking from the heart. No grand speeches, just promises to love, trust, and protect each other forever. When they slid rings onto each other's fingers, a soft cheer rose from the guests. Nathaniel dipped Celeste into a gentle kiss, and lanterns glowed brighter in the dusk. Later, as the celebration wound down, Nathaniel, Celeste, and Aaliyah walked along a stone path through the garden. Fireflies danced in the grass. Celeste leaned against Nathaniel's arm and looked up at the sky. "I feel like I have a second chance at life," she said. Aaliyah squeezed her hand. "You do," she replied. "Ow. And now you have all of us with you." Nathaniel gazed at the stars, thinking of the long path they had walked from shock and fear to hope and justice. He felt gratitude for every person who stood by them, and a promise to use his resources for good. Celeste turned to him and smiled. "Our story is just beginning," she said softly. Nathaniel kissed her forehead. Yes, he agreed. And it will be a story of truth, love, and new beginnings. Under the gentle light of the lanterns, they continued down the path, side by side, ready to build a future shaped by honesty, compassion, and the unbreakable bond that had brought them back together.